Chapter 38. When we left the king, we found Uju and warned him to take care. However, now that Ivy had been reunited with her husband, I thought Uju in little danger. The king's council members spent the entire next day deliberating, and came to the conclusion, despite Ajoy's explanations and arguments, that they didn't know what to make of me. Furthermore, they feared I might still be dangerous. Their reason? I could lose. My appearance had changed twice, and I had magically escaped from prison. The council decided to confine me to my bedchamber with 2 guards at my door. When and if the king was well enough, he would judge my case. Visitors were allowed. Ajoy spent much of each day with me, and he wasn't my only companion. Uju came too. So did Mistress Audra and the tailor. We sang together, and the guards often opened the door, the better to hear us and to sing along. Then, naturally, passers-by stopped to listen too, and to join in, and to enter and sing more. Castle opinion mounted in my favor. I was no longer constantly at Ivy's side. Indeed, she had never visited me. Mistress Audra and the tailor were my enthusiastic advocates, and even taciturn Uju spoke up for me. One afternoon, Mistress Audra asked me to show everyone how to alluze. No one could do it, but it became the fashion to stop by for a demonstration. My prison was frequently the merriest spot in the castle. Sometimes I asked my visitors if they'd seen anyone resembling Skolny. The answer was always no. I prayed he'd truly been destroyed beyond return in some other form. After he saw Ivy, King Oscaro's recovery resumed. A week later he spoke to her. His first halting words, "My dear, beautiful love." Exactly what she'd wanted to hear. I was overjoyed he was better, but I was dismayed too. Soon I'd be brought before him, and I'd tell him terrible truths about Ivy. Would he believe them, or would he deem me an ill-favored, lying ogre's cousin? The following Tuesday I was summoned to the throne room. Ivy was at the market in Antia with her new lady-in-waiting, the plain-faced daughter of a knight. I was as frightened as I'd been during my first time in the king's presence. He spoke slowly, and he formed his words deliberately, but each one was clear, and his sentences were complete and lucid. "Thank you for coming, Maid Azza. I am hoping you can explain some matters I don't understand." Then he asked Sir Ulu to remain in the chamber with us, but no one else. I told them almost everything, from the moment Ivy found me losing to my assurance to her of the king's love. I omitted only her habit of flirting with Ajoy and Uju. I couldn't omit her attempt on my life, but I stressed Skolny's evil influence. I wanted to ameliorate the king's pain. Moreover, I wanted to present myself as fair. They let me speak without interruption, but I interrupted my story once. I couldn't help myself. When I first mentioned the potions, I said, "Sire, did you notice a change in Her Majesty's appearance at the wedding, and again recently?" He nodded. His expression didn't change. I waited for him to say something, but he was silent. I resumed my tale. Sir Ulu shook his head occasionally, but King Oscaro looked steadily at me, his expression unfailingly attentive. At the end, he turned to the choir master. With an effort, he said, "I believe her. I wish the truth were otherwise, but I believe it. Queen Ivy told me some of it herself." As Skolny had suggested, the queen had heard what she'd told him when he'd been in his apparent stupor. The king added, "I didn't comprehend everything. I was most perplexed by the mirror she spoke of." Sir Ulu said, "Sire, how appalling! Maid Azza," he sang, "I'd give my best notes for forgiveness. I was wrong, my ears confused. I cannot undo the deeds or erase the need for forgiveness." I said nothing. I wasn't ready to forgive him. He went on, "What will you do to the Queen, your Majesty?"
I shall do nothing to her. She saved my life, and I love her. When I lay on my sick bed, I was a wanderer in a shadowy wilderness. If not for her, I would still be wandering. When she came to me at night, her voice was my guide. Her presence was my solace. In my delirium, I thought her a cat. She was a small, black cat, and she led me home. I shall do nothing to her, but I must do something so that she may never again rule Eotha.
He asked us to leave. Ujori was waiting anxiously outside. As soon as he saw my expression, he knew all was well. He kissed me right before Sir Ulu, but a kiss wasn't enough to express his joy. He spun me around and fed Uchu a handful of treats. Sir Ulu apologized to me again, and added,
I should have known by your marvelous voice that you couldn't be evil.
I shook my head. Voices and faces aren't manifestations of good or bad. I realized how much I'd changed since I'd first arrived at the castle. I'd corrected the choir master. He bowed and left us. Ijorish took my hands in both of his.
Aza,
he sang.
Aza, Uchu, Aza.
I waited, puzzled. He laughed.
I've been to Keria and to Pooh. I've addressed the twin kings of Bisidel and offended neither one, but I've never... Aza, I need a partner in the composing game.
I smiled. Of course. He put a finger on my lips.
A partner who raises me above myself.
He wanted a different partner, not me?
A partner who delights her listeners. Aza, will you marry me?
I put my hand in front of my face. Then I lowered it in spite of my blush. I sang, I would marry you this moment. I'll harmonize with you forever. We kissed again and again. Uchu barked. I dared reach into Ijori's tunic jacket for a treat for her. The king spent the next morning alone with Ijori. Afterward, he called for a sing for the following week. It would be his first since he'd been injured. It would be my first since before being imprisoned. Over the course of the week, I wrote my song, taking extra care, eager to strike the right note. When the song was written, I went through my new gowns and chose a dusty pink one with a low, loose waist and a pale pink V-shaped collar. I was brave and looked at myself in the mirror. Ugly. Can a dragon judge Ostimo? I blinked in astonishment, realizing for the first time that I was as hard on myself as my worst critics. Sir Ulu had called me an ogre's cousin, and I'd believed he might be right. I'd thought Ijori saw me as hulking and unwomanly. I'd anticipated insults before they came. I'd avoided looking in actual mirrors, but I'd gazed constantly in the mirror in my mind, and always hated what I showed myself. I looked again in the real mirror in front of me. Dignified. Dignified and grand. I closed my eyes and saw myself again. Milk-white face, blood-red lips, dignified and grand. I reviewed my song and changed a word or two. At the sing, I sat next to Ijori, with Uchu sitting in attention between us. King Lascaro and Ivy entered. The king seated himself next to me and placed Ivy on his other side. I tightened my grip on Ijori's hand. The sing began. Everyone was in fine voice. Choral selections were sung with such fervor, Sir Ulu's baton could hardly keep up. Then, in a break from tradition, King Oscaro sang his solo first. He mounted the stage, his step as firm as it had ever been. He nodded at the choir master and began an epistolary song, the form Ivy had used at the healing sing.
My dear friends, dear to me, everyone, it is a joy to sing with you again. I can hardly believe I can. It is a joy to see your joy.
People clasped hands and swayed and closed their eyes.
I heard your voices when I was ill. I was adrift, I could find no path. My spirit was missing. I heard one voice above the rest. It found me. It told me stories I could not understand. At night it rested at my side. I thought it was a cat. I followed it home, where it turned into my love. My queen cured me, and I'll thank her forever.
People stopped swaying and opened their eyes. He held out his hand and Ivy joined him on the stage, smiling triumphantly.
She will leave me soon, for a brief while. She will live at Adoma, where the obuco blooms best.
The swaying resumed. Adoma was the king's southernmost castle.
I've been your king for 17 years. 17 years of happiness, since a month before my nephew was born. I will be your king for 3 years more.
I heard huffs of surprise and a moan or two.
When my reign is 20 years old, and my nephew is 2, I will abdicate and he will rule. His voice will carry, and Eortha will be safe. Uchu's voice carries farther, so Eortha will be safer.
There was laughter.
And I dare say his wife's voice will carry farthest, so Eortha will be safest.
I listened, and heard no gasps, felt no resentment. Thank you, everyone. Jory squeezed my hand.
We will have a new 3-tree on the throne. King, queen, and dog. Bass, alto, and howl.
More laughter.
But although I step down, we will visit. I will sing with you through low times and high. Yours, in loving gratitude, Oscaro.
The king was sending Ivy into exile so the rest of us would be safe from her. He had been both just and merciful. He was exiling himself as well. How much that pained him I have no idea. He stepped back. I felt everyone stiffen as Ivy began to sing. Dear subjects, I am glad my husband is well again. I have not yet stopped smiling over joy. I hope you may tell by my violet gown. Violet for happiness. It was a privilege to rule you for the months of my rule. I meant to be a strong queen. I regret taking away your songbirds. I am sorry. I didn't know how much you like them. Your king's happy wife, Queen Ivy. Her voice was weak and she missed some notes, but her tune was pleasant. Every hand went up and her smile grew and glowed. She left the stage, but the king remained. I wondered why. The doors at the back of the hall opened, and Mother and Father entered. I jumped up. Behind them were Olo and Yari and Arita. And there was the Duchess, and Dame Ethel. Jory's smile was wide enough to touch his ears. I ran up the aisle, and saw Zam in the doorway. Zam! Uchu pelted by and jumped up on Father. Mother embraced me, and I reached out for Zam. Arita patted my back, and Yari said,
Congratulations, sister. I suppose the guards won't be back to arrest us all.
We laughed, and even the Duchess looked glad. Zam said,
Congratulations, cousin. You were at another crossroads. A splendid one, to be exact.
I didn't know I was at a crossroads. Jory took my hand.
Come, Asa,
he sang softly in my ear.
We planned it in secret to confound the fairy Lucinda. We need no magical gifts.
He reddened.
And I wanted to see your joy when your family came. It's our wedding day, love.
Sir Ulu sang,
Prince Jory,
Yes, Eortha! Jory tugged me down the aisle, just as Lady Arona had all those months ago for the composing game. Sieur Ilu sang, Maid Aza! My knees were weak, my heart was hammering, but I was very, very happy. I mustered my voice and sang, Yes, Eortha! Hands went up. Sieur Ilu sang, Eortheana! Everyone sang, Yes, Eortha! Sieur Ilu led us in the three-tree song. Jory sang next, a promise to Eortha, and a love song. Everything comes in threes. My love returned, our king has sung. Tonight we wed. Everything comes in threes. My bride's voice, our song together, Eortha's chorus. Everything comes in threes. The king will uncurl his roots from his Umbu throne. I'll be plunged in his place. Aza will rise at my side. Everything comes in threes. Obuko, Almena, Umbu, Council, King, Kingdom, King, Queen, Eortha, I won't rule alone. I decided against the song I'd planned. This is an Immortal love song, I began. Every curl is a reason I love you. Your fingers make 10 more. Each smile, each glance, each word, reasons reach heaven. People swayed and closed their eyes. Many clasped hands. I sang with my whole voice. Loving you makes me love myself more. Loving you makes me love you evermore. I added the final stanza of the song I'd written for the sing. I'm an innkeeper's daughter. I saw Father beam. A castle is an inn, and a kingdom is a castle. The regions are the rooms. I know how to keep an inn. An innkeeper does her best. I began to allude. From above the Duchess's seat, I sang in her voice,
My estimo is piping hot.
From above Uju's seat, I sang in his voice,
My centaur is well stabled.
From above the library keeper's seat, I sang in his voice,
My books have fine titles, not overused.
From above Zam's seat, I sang in his voice,
My bed is wide, to be exact.
From above Frying Pan's seat, I loosed bells jingling. I sang in her voice,
The kitchen is ringing.
I heard her shout of laughter. From my own mouth I sang, I rejoice, the king is well. We left the stage and descended into a forest of waving arms.